worries. Okay, all right. Moving on, we have SERAP asks NASS to stop Buhari from selling government properties. Now, the Social Economy Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has asked the National Assembly to stop President Muhammadu Buhari from selling government properties to fund the 2021 budget. Now, in a statement that was issued on Sunday by its Deputy Director, Kolawole Oluwadare, appealed to the Senate President, Ahmad Lawal, and the Speaker House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, to bar the President from carrying out such moves via a letter addressed on January 16. Now, the group wants the leadership of the National Assembly to urgently review the 2021 appropriation legislation to stop the government of President Muhammadu Buhari from selling public properties to fund the 2021 budget, and to identify areas in the budget to cut, such as salaries and allowance for members, and the presidency to make savings to address the growing level of deficit and borrowing, while also warning that selling the valuable public properties to fund the 2021 budget will be counterproductive, and this will be vulnerable to corruption and mismanagement, also undermining the social contracts with Nigerians, leaving the government worse off and hurts the country in the long run. And it also states that it is neither necessary nor in the public interest to actually sell these properties. Now, we know SERAP is always coming out strong, most of the times, to always tackle lot of things that will be like, oh yes, keep doing that. But at the end of the day, just goes down. We hear nothing again. But we still need to talk about this, because who knows, this might actually work. Now, it means we actually, because we probably might not even know that the government is selling properties, the Buhari administration is selling properties, the public properties, to make up for the 2021 budget. And now they're coming out to say, please stop selling these properties. They are for Nigerians and not for the administration. It's meant for the citizens. Stop selling them, because when they sell all these properties finish, what remains? By the time you sell it just to make out for a 2021 budget, it doesn't make sense. You have to reduce the allowances and salaries, which is what we always talk about on this table. So what would you say about this? This is a nice move to me, or what would you say?
This is a what to you?
A nice move. Just a move.
Oh yeah. The thing is that I think it was the one-time American Secretary of State, Mrs. Clinton, that said that the Nigerian government over the years allowed corruption to fester. They are now losing parts of their country to terrorist groups because they cannot make hard choices. That was the word that they used. They can't make hard choices. It's been the problem of the Nigerian government over so many years, since the military came to power, minus Yakubu Gowon's administration, that did an exceptionally good job. First of all, in reunifying Nigeria. Second of all, in not pursuing any kind of reprisal, retaliatory treatment against the secessionists. Gowon did an outstanding job. But after that, it's been downhill. None of the government has been able to make this hard choices. So over the years, we squandered our oil money. And considering the amount of money Nigeria made over the years, if the money was well handled, Nigeria would have been a wonderful place to live in. So the leadership failed us. They didn't use the money well. We've been very stingy, and now we have these billions and trillions of dollars saved somewhere. So at least they saved the money. They didn't utilize it well. They didn't save the money. And now they want to add this additional load on future generations. This deficit budgeting. Why budget? Why this deficit budgeting continuously, year after year? The budget is 13 point something trillion. Okay. And the revenue we're expecting is 7 point something trillion, which means 5.6 trillion is deficit. You don't have the money. You have to borrow from the World Bank. You want to borrow from Islamic Development Bank. You want to borrow from Brazil. Then again, you want to sell government property. You want to concession. They want to sell what they call integrated power plant. They want to concession National Theatre, Tafawa Balewa Square, so many places, you know. Why do that? Why don't you make the hard choice? And if this money is, if you're getting it so that you invest in education, in health, we might feel bad about it, but find consolation in the fact that, okay, the investment will pay off in future.
Yeah.
But most of the money is for consumption, what do they call it, recurrent expenditure. Many of them will be stolen, shared, and salted away in private bank accounts overseas. So it's so very bad. But the people you're telling, the House of Rep, you're telling, okay, make it hard for the president, or what I keep missing the word. You're telling them to not allow the president do it. They are benefiting from the deficit budgeting because they are the highest paid legislators in the world. And the Nigerian worker is the least paid worker in the world. So look at that contrast.
Are you even telling them to cut their salary?
Cut their salaries.
Their allowances.
Do they want to do that? Of course, you know they don't want to do that because, and apart from the excessive salary, you have perks like 5.6 billion used to buy SUVs for Nigerian senators. The presidency and the vice presidency, they are the president and the vice president, their feeding allowance and travel allowance for in this same budget is 3.4 billion. It's important to note that the US president feeds himself and his family, not the government. The government pays for public events. If there's eating in a public event, or if something, public events take place in the White House, the government pays, federal US government. But for the feeding of the president himself, he feeds his family. In Nigeria, the president does not feed his family. The vice president does not feed his family. It's government money that feeds them. And the amount of money boggles the mind. The amount of money for feeding the president in Nigeria is higher than the total salary of the US government in a whole year. So it's unthinkable. It's heartbreaking. But like you said, SERAP talks a lot and get nothing done in the past. That's why we should have sustained SAG's protest. There's a need for protest. There's a need for transformation of this country. And until that transformation comes, we'll just sit around and waste our time, and things will go bad, and future generation will suffer.
Okay, so
yeah, if you're talking about selling, I left the country in '81. Back then, the naira and the dollar was a little bit
exactly.
Yeah, almost the same.
Almost the same. And back then, we have NEPA controlled by the federal government. We have a lot of infrastructure controlled by the government. But if you're talking about selling, if you're selling to make good for the country, it's good. But sometimes when you're selling, they sell at a very low price to their bodies.
Their friends.
Ooh, that's another angle.
Yes, and then you find out they start making billions of it. I believe in, if it's a private, sometimes you make a move to help the country. Because like the NEPA now, I'll use NEPA for example. Back then, if they want to take you are not, there'll be an announcement on the radio, like so around 9 o'clock, there's gonna be a power failure here till 12. Now it's just gone.
Now there's no light at all.
There's no light at all. So, but I even talk about where do you used to make a phone call in Nitel. All those institutes then was controlled by the federal government. We even have Nigerian Airways. They sold all this stuff out. We are the only country now without a national airline. If Dubai got one, South Africa got one, but nothing from Nigerian Airways except except Arik. Arik is a private firm. So sometimes when you sell at the highest price, it's good, because if you work for the government, the saying in Nigeria is, when you work for the government, you're less effective because you can go. But when you work for a private company, there's a push for you to be there on time.
To maximize profit.
Right, to maximize profit. So I can say selling, it might be good if you sell at the right price and not selling to your bodies.
I think I have a different point of view, and just like me,
Table breaker.
I'll tilt a little to its side and a little to his side. But I'm of the opinion that from the little knowledge I have on economics, when you're in a recession, you have to either spend your way out of recession, cut down on certain expenditures, or probably privatization. All of this is still increasing spendings because you have to make sure that money goes around legally. Now, look at. We all like to say that government has no business in business, but the truth is, because of the past experience of how privatization has occurred, we tend not to trust government in power. Look at how the last privatization, like I remember, Atiku undid the privatization, and you all will agree with me that several of these monumental edifices were sold far below
next to nothing,
far below what they are worth. Now, but that does not mean that we cannot, that we made a mistake like that does not mean we cannot now find a means to checkmate something like that being done in the future if it is probably in the best interest of the country. I'll give a good instance. One of the things I want to commend this administration for is how they now do government to government negotiation instead of having an intermediary that ends up either sabotaging the efforts from either ends. Look at the rail system, the locomotive, the railway system that is coming to life. It's actually a government to government negotiation. Look at what happened during Obasanjo's regime during the power sector that we really can't account for close to like 16 billion in dollars. Now, but look at what the Nigerian government at the moment is doing with Siemens. It's a government to government negotiation, and that's why it looks as if some of these things. I have the video of where Doyin Okupe said in past administration that it's not possible for Nigeria to use a new train. That was then even when oil was sold at probably close to $100 or $120 per barrel. Not even now that it's really down. So the truth is, there are so many things we can't get there in a day. The truth is, one, the masses are getting more involved. Back then during Obasanjo's regime, during Yar'Adua's regime, it was only the elites that had the opportunity to probably contribute to politics. But right now, one of the reasons why the NASS protest was almost a success, I have my grievances with certain level of certain people, was almost a success in that, see, the social media brings everything to every Nigerian that you can hold your government accountable right now. So it is rare if we now define, if they come out clear to let us know what they need to do and why they need to do it, it's easier for all of us to hold them accountable. Irrespective of my political tendencies, I am somebody that everyone that comes across me knows that I try to be very fair, and what is not good is really not good. But as far as this is concerned, see, I know SERAP very well. I know those behind, those shooting their eyes. And see, this, just like I said, they are very good noisemakers, but they rarely get anything done. In fact, they are good at filing frivolous court orders, court charges. They just do that for the publicity of it and nothing.
Why do you think they don't get anything done? Because
most times it's the same reason why I am sad to admit that the EFCC is probably not getting so much done to when they pick politicians. You see, we like to do certain things for the media. When you get your retweets, you get your likes, you get people talking about it, and after that, they don't do serious research, they don't do serious analysis, comparative analysis to juxtapose with what is done elsewhere. You just pick people up, put serious studies, and they get a lawyer that can help them out. So they have, I can give you instances of several things SERAP has probably interfered with, that you just know that it just goes down the drain. They are good on social media, yeah, we should give them that. But when it comes to really actualizing or getting things done, I don't give you that.
Okay.
The thing is, can I make a point?
Of course, yes, yeah. Make a point. I just want to quickly note this. Actually forgot to join us on the program. Send your messages or your WhatsApp message to the number below your screen. TV is always displayed there, 0703-510-2283. I'm so sorry I didn't say that on time. You can still send your messages. We still have over 30 minutes plus, about 45 minutes. You can still air your view, your opinions, and share your ideas. And yes, over to you.
Yeah, the thing about selling these things is that if you borrow money to pay your children's school fees, that's a worthy investment, okay? But if you're borrowing money to drink beer, party, show off, buy expensive clothes, it's not investment, because you drink beer and get drunk and act crazy, and it does you no good.
No good.
You buy your clothes in a year or two, they're all worn out. But investment in education will not only improve the quality of your life, quality of life for your children, but your grandchildren and future generations. That's an investment. So if they are selling off these things so as to invest in those pivotal areas of national development, it will be wonderful. But the most of the sales will go to one, service debt. In this budget, 25% of the money goes to debt servicing, okay? Then the rest, about more than 60-something percent, goes to recurrent expenditure, okay? So it's very comparable to drinking beer and buying clothes. It takes you nowhere. It's just a load. You have this weight on you that is really essentially dragging you back. So you're selling these things, making loans to continue to carry a load that is weighing you down. That's the problem. And then it's like the Buhari administration keeps getting more and more dictatorial. As the legislator, I read a lot about the 1979 Constitution. I don't know much about this present one, but the Buhari, the Shagari era Constitution, I read it so well. And those that made the constitutions argue that the powers they are giving to the presidency is just too much. Others countered. No, the legislator, the Senate, and the House of Rep, they use the word, will be interrupted guidance of the Constitution. Fearless, courageous guidance of the Constitution. So that no matter how powerful you make the president, they will counter because of their fearlessness, because of their courageousness to guide the Constitution. The legislature will counter, will not allow the president to become dictatorial. But in this administration, I don't know what they call this legislature, eighth legislature, ninth legislature? Ninth, eh? It's like they are becoming more and more of a rubber stamp legislature. So you don't expect them to do anything that impedes the will of the presidency. And then, so accountability, we don't have it in Nigeria. We've not had it. The SACS movement started, but it didn't lead us to anywhere. We still can't hold anybody accountable. Not even the local government chairman, not even the local government councillor. There's no accountability. So the thing is that there must be some kind of involvement, some kind of mobilization by the masses to really get this government to be responsive to the legitimate aspirations of the Nigerian.
Can I quickly say something? I want to disagree with my brother. Tell us today is
I am your political opponent.
See, honestly speaking, I have my grievances with this present administration, and for those that know me so well, they know that not just even just for the sake of saying it on there or probably on social media. I'm the type that with the opportunity that I have, I confront those that I know and tell them something. And you find out that when you get insider information, some of us will probably know it. That's why it looks as if the likes of Shehu Sani is doing so well, his activism as an ex-senator on Twitter. But when he was in the Senate, it was nothing but a rubber stamp. He could not even say anything. Now, let me be a little bit more fair. I want to give it to this administration from three ways, in three perspectives. The first is that, see, Obasanjo removed Senate presidents at will. As in, he stood his ground to remove Senate president. The 8th Senate, there was several disagreements between the Saraki and the presidency, and the president did not even make any move. He did not make any move. So to say that he's dictatorial, I want to decide, because I know what Obasanjo would have done, if you were probably the president at the moment. Number two is the fact that we probably now have the opportunity to now say or be judged that we now have the ruling party. They don't like to be called the governing party. They also have the leadership of the house, even though they had it in the 8th Senate, but there was no coordination. What you have right now is that most of them, they sit down to look at things. That does not mean that we do not have an opposition. There's an opposition in the house, but the truth is all of them are united when it comes to their pockets, irrespective of political affiliation. So if some of us that are probably vibrant right now, that's why I've always fought the likes of Philadelphia, the likes of Shiwere, I've said that before, the likes of Tope Fasua. If all of them are now clamoring to be presidents and they go to the House of Representatives or the Senate, we will have very educative and informative arguments that the so-called people that looks like rubber stamp, quote and unquote, will not just go ahead like that. Now, the third thing I really want to say, where it now comes to government borrowing and borrowing. Honestly speaking, I've taken my time to look at how other economies have probably gone out of recession. And like I analyzed earlier on, you either cut down on expenditure, do a lot of spending through projects, do a lot of spending through projects, because the reason why the government is doing road tracks, building roads, is because they engage artisans within that community, and before you know it, a lot of money is running in the economy. Now, does the Nigerian look at the price of oil per barrel? Do we really have money? What does our foreign reserve? What's our foreign reserve saying? Obasanjo did well to get our foreign reserve oil, or somebody came and depleted it. In fact, even the same governance forum, like he rightly said, were the ones that stood. I read NOI's book, I read a book about fighting corruption, and in fact, the governance forum stood and said we must be spending.
Share the money, make we
when some of them actually wanted the money to be saved for a rainy day. So the truth is, we have people. We're getting there. And what do I mean by getting there? We're getting there in the sense that there are certain things that this administration is doing. That is, like I said, government to government relationship as far as project is concerned. That is streamlining people from actually eating. Not like some people are not eating, but it's cutting down, because you cannot really change things drastically. Things have to change
slowly. We agree with you. What Obasanjo exploited was the psychological ravages of military rule. The soldiers were in power for so long, and it was like a soldier, the president became the father, the sole administrator, the emperor. People did not question the president. So when Obasanjo came to power, people still had that mindset. And he took control of the Senate, took control of the legislature, took control of everything. And people just followed him because they followed leaders, presidents like that for so long. But it was because that grip on that psychological distortion mindset was beginning to loosen. That's why his third term bid failed. After 8 years of democracy, the Senate were beginning to open their eyes. We are beginning to claim some of their powers that the president took from them. And once they defeated the third term bid, it was like they awoken from the sleep. So you can be as dictatorial as you choose to be these days, but you can never have the control Obasanjo had on the senators. That era is gone. The senators are working, the Nigerians became more politically savvy, politically conscious. So that's why, but it doesn't mean that this presidency is not dictatorial. It is.
Give me instances, and let me take you off.